hello, everyone. I'm Jane from Sale. I'm the Chief Exec here at the wonderful Working Families. We're delighted to welcome you to this Culture Coffee webinar in partnership with our friends at Bright Horizons, and a big thank you to them again. A bit about us, Working Families. We're the UK's national charity for working parents and carers. Our mission is to remove the barriers that working parents and carers face in the workplace, and we do this in three key ways: by empowering working parents and carers through our free legal advice service, by supporting employers to improve their flexible and family-friendly workplaces, and by driving legislative change by influencing policymakers. And for me, what makes us unique is that view of what's not working, what we hear from the parents and carers who contact us who want to keep their jobs, and what we know is possible from the progressive employers that we work with. So that view of what's working and what's not working is the thing that we really bring to that pushing for positive policy change. And this National Work-Life Week, we asked parents what mattered to them. And top of the list was having a culture that supports work-life balance. It even beat higher pay, which in the cost of living crisis is pretty amazing. And it's understandable to want to work somewhere that you feel understood and valued so that you can do your best work. Our brilliant panelists today know all about that and are going to share with you their insights and expertise. I'm delighted to introduce our panelists: Denise Priest, the Executive Director of Customer Experience at Bright Horizons; Christiana Rose, founding co-chair for the Parents and Carers Network at Middlesex University, London; and Orianna Caruso, co-chair of the Citi Families Matter Network, London. Sorry, Orianna, that's a bit of a mouthful. I think I put the pause in the wrong place. So you're the co-chair of the Citi Families Matter Network, London. I hope that's better. So I'm going to hand over to Denise, who will tell you a bit more about Bright Horizons and why they are partnering with us this year.
Well, thank you, Jane. Thank you so much. We're delighted to be here. We're really proud of our long-standing relationship with Working Families. We have a really long history of collaboration, shared commitment to transforming workplace cultures, and really ensuring that that combination of work and family is a positive experience for everybody. And I think, as Jane said, we know that alas, there are some people that don't experience that in their day-to-day working life. So, for over 35 years, Bright Horizons has partnered with employers to implement work-life strategies that reflect the evolving needs of their organisations and the needs of their families. And we've been really privileged to be part of these conversations in what it takes to make a truly family-friendly workplace where people can thrive both in their professional but also in their personal lives too. And we currently work with over 400, enlightened UK employers who represent diverse sectors such as retail, health, higher education, law, media, finance, and the government. And our wide range of services designed to support those who have care and responsibilities for loved ones of all ages, and most recently, including pets. The feedback we receive from clients and the wider research we undertake on a regular basis demonstrates there's a huge impact for employers on both engagement, retention, and productivity. So it's a real win-win situation. And I think for us at Bright Horizons, the emphasis on National Work-Life Week puts flexibility is one, element that we fully support. And in today's fast-paced, changing demographics and, how people are driving social change, plus the fact that the construct of the family is really different now. We're really, really excited about the concept of flexibility, and we know it's a key factor in driving successful family-friendly workplaces. So delighted to be here, Jane.
First IT fail of the day. I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you very much, Denise. We'll now be jumping into the panel discussion. But before we do, just a bit of housekeeping. At the end of the session, we will have time for questions you have for our panelists. So please put any questions you'd like the panelists to answer in the Q&A as they come up, and we'll address them at the end. Anything else you can put into the chat. So we can now begin the panel discussion. I'd like to ask each panelist a few questions, one question at a time. Each panelist will have about 3 minutes to answer each question. And I'm going to ask that you, the panelists, kindly keep to your time so we have that space for the Q&A at the end. These questions have been given in advance to our panelists to give them a chance to have a think through of the answers. So we'll start with you, Christiana. I hope that's okay with you for the first question. Then I'll ask you to give your answers, Orianna and Denise. So, Christiana, what insights or learning points can you share with us about the value that diversity and inclusion bring to a workplace and how it can help companies deliver in their aims and objectives?
Thanks, Jane. So I wanted to talk about how we have a dedicated inclusion and wellbeing team within our HR team. And the thing we're really passionate about is these 6 networks. So we have our interfaith network, our LGBTQ network, a gender network, an anti-racism network, our parents and carers, which is me and my co-chairs, and our disability network. These networks really kind of form that wellbeing and inclusion kind of outlook. And we're just really proud of that kind of work there. So particularly because I'm coming from parents and carers, I'm a founding co-chair, and I was really passionate about it, really wanted to be involved with that because we were involved in the Athena Swan gender benchmark exercise. And we really realised at that point that we needed a carers policy. We just didn't have one. And it just seemed mad when I was we were sat into kind of assessment teams, and I was in the purple group, and I was interviewing our staff members and finding out about their lives. And it just was shocking that everyone had kind of not just weren't just parenting, they were caring on top of work, and it felt like it was really needed. So myself and my coach at the time, Rob, were really passionate about getting that carers policy in. I know we're talking about that area later, but it was just, instead of just merely kind of giving some guidance, I wanted it to be defined. It felt like there was something lacking. It felt like it needed to be more prominent. So we're super proud of kind of getting that through. I'm also just very interested in what our actual staff needs and interests are. So I'm very keen to always kind of make sure our members are being really clear about, what is it they need, what would be helpful to their lives. We should be listening, we should be caring. We want to be that type of organisation that invests in our people, and then we keep our people. So I feel really strongly in that sort of area. So yes, a big focus on that. And so I listen very carefully to that, and I make sure that when people kind of mention things, so for example, a lady said, I'm really struggling with the transition, at parent level, of my child moving from nursery to reception. So, we were able to really respond quite quickly to that and say, right, well, we'll set up a supplier and we'll have a talk on that. So we did, we had a whole, so September, normally we have about 5 talks that are kind of quite in there with early years foundation stage, or just kind of really responding to things that parents should kind of anticipate or things that are helpful to them. So yeah, that kind of thing really. But we're just completely with you on diversity inclusion. So yeah, we're really passionate about that area.
Thank you very much indeed, Christiana. And now, Denise, it's exactly the same question for you. What insights or learning points can you share with us about the value that diversity and inclusion bring to a workplace and how it can help companies deliver in their aims and objectives?
Yeah, so I guess I'm looking at it through 2 lenses, one through the employer partners that we work with, and then one through, our own lens as Bright Horizons. So Christiana, I'll be in touch with you after this because we've got a huge array of ready for school resources for both children and parents. So I will certainly make sure that we get those to you to use. But I think it's really interesting because as an aspect of diversity, if you think about parents and carers, we conduct research every year called the Work and Family Snapshot, and 91% of respondents this year said that their employer supporting them with direct care responsibilities made a big difference on their well-being, which, as we know, impacts things like sick and stress levels, people's productivity levels. So it has a huge impact on that basis. I think The other interesting thing is when we look at diversity, and you alluded to earlier on about the kind of cost of living crisis. So in and amongst this now, when people are looking for support around, how they manage their caring arrangements, it also has an impact on social mobility. So, it can't be lost on anyone that we're seeing every single day around, parents might need to leave because they can't, or carers, because they can't, find the care that they need at the quality that they need at the price point that they need. So that's what we're really working with employers on. And then I guess the other big piece of this is really getting beyond those gendered parenting roles. So, there's no longer now this language around primary and secondary carers, right? If you're a parent or a carer, you're a parent or a carer. You're not first or second. You're a parent or a carer. So we have to have a real focus on that, particularly as people may be in same gender relationships. So you can't just go down those gender stereotypes. So a lot more awareness on that. And then I guess we also need to listen to the strong voices of working fathers, who can be the least engaged if the environment they work in doesn't enable them to participate fully, and then more burden then falls on the other partner. So I think we're quite proud of that. Our benchmark has contributed to the awareness of those inclusive leave packages as well.
Super, thank you very much, Denise. And Orianna, I'm now going to come to you, and it's exactly the same question again. What insights or learning points can you share with us about the value that diversity and inclusion bring to a workplace, and how it can help companies deliver in their aims and objectives?
Thank you, Jane. As you know, Citi is quite a huge organization. So with huge organization come a huge diversity that needs to be harnessed and needs to be exploited to a point. And that's why we have created with our HR partner and D&I structure a framework of reference, so that all the leaders and senior leadership, as part of their day job, have a goal and an aim to look into the diversity talent, the pool, and especially ensuring that the inclusivity is at the forefront of the way that we do our business, but also in the way that we treat and work with, and we are the employer for our employees. So it's very important that we are able to translate the need of the business structure, if you will, and entwine with diversity and inclusion. So making it part, making it integral part at the business proposition. So the pillar that we have at the front for us to think about it is to, for example, I'm just going to give you a quick run through, is to foster an inclusive culture. This is promoted and supported and driven by senior leadership, and that makes the life easier for all the employees, such as myself, part of a very huge variety of networks, to anchor the mission of the network to the mission of the bank itself, and then making a proposition which is 360, is integral, is not an afterthought. D&I is not an afterthought, is complementary and is part of Citi. Another is to drive accountability. If you drive accountability in your day-to-day job, you drive accountability for diversity and inclusion. You're sure that you are making a point and a stand in ensuring that you are listening to diverse type of opinion, and you are inclusive in making those opinions heard and making those opinions count. Engage with clients, a variety of clients. Internally, we are, as I said, we are a humongous number of people working for the organization, but also externally, and propose that values outside to our client. That is something that is very important. But also manage the talent and again, develop the diverse pipeline, ensuring that everyone brings their best self to work. And it may sound cheeky, but it's quite important to reiterate that point and to ensure that people are able to be themselves and to participate in the narrative. Christiana was making a point, which is great, about listening, changing, lobbying, improving, learning, and moving on. Is a cycle, is a continuous cycle. And that's why it's embedded into the way the Citi thinks and operates. And ultimately is to be an employer of choice, and to be very proud of the work that we are doing with our partner in HR, our partner in Live Well. Both Denise and Christiana touched upon on the intertwined relationship with the mental well-being of our employees. If we are happy people, happy work, and we deliver better on our day-to-day achievement. And Denise and Bright Horizon is one of our very strong partners that we operate with. And we'll discuss later on, we have quite a few excellent package that we are able to offer to our employees, which all bring back to the point of that 91% that Denise was mentioning about making employees feeling better and valued.
Thank you so much. It's always great to be talking with these forward-thinking employers who are really wanting to get the best for and from their employees. So back to Christiana now. The next question is, can you tell us about the policies and support available to families of all kinds in your organisation? How do you make sure they are inclusive?
I wanted to begin with a bit of a shout out for working families and Diana. I think you've been absolutely integral to us. It's just really transformed things. So our HR managers worked really closely with Diana on looking at our policies, really looking at them and really making sure that they are fit for purpose. So yeah, just huge thank you for that, because I think that just already being kind of that top level membership with yourselves has really kind of added that dimension. So huge thank you. Some of the policies I think I mentioned earlier that I'm super proud of is our carers policy, just purely because we didn't have one. So thank you, Diana, for that work with John from HR on that. And I really like shouting about our dependency policy. I think it's really important. It's not, it's not part of your annual leave. It's not, it's this kind of, we've got 6.5 days. So our I always mention it to parents and carers. I always say, and anyone who'll listen really, that essentially you've got 5 days, and they're normally like emergency days, like your child's unwell, or perhaps the person you're caring for, just you really need to be there at that point. But these 3 kind of half days that make up the 6.5, they're like a secret here. So I just like to kind of whisper into people's ear that like they must know that these also exist. So it kind of elevated the 5, and it's gone up to the 6.5. So they're actually for that our staff can use for like doctor's appointments. So actually not emergency. It's like, you've got to take your child somewhere, or like you're taking the person you're caring for to the doctors or whatever it is. I feel like that just makes such a difference as well, because it doesn't cut into your annual leave. So yeah, really passionate about the dependency policy that we've got here. And yeah, just really proud of kind of what's been going on in the last few years. We've got an equality and diversity policy that focuses on promotion, staff development, career development, training. And then, yeah, really importantly, our blended working and flexible working policies, because we originally only had a procedure. So, procedure. So that's kind of giving us the right to request flexible hours in a formal way. I'm really excited to see actually on the website, also Working Families website, about this new bill that's come in, and I'm very passionate about the law side. So yeah, that's going to make such a difference to people's lives regarding, being able to make that flexible working request from day one, not having to pass your probation. I feel like this is huge, and being able to make 2 flexible working requests in a year. So I'm currently working with our uni help team, the kind of the on the ground, and currently now at Middlesex we've got all our influx of students, so they're really in demand. But we've had some really great things coming from our parents and carers network, that actually there's really good practice there, that they're flexible, that they understand that people might just not be available, a standard 9 to 5, and they kind of work in, and actually that it's within our library, so it's kind of open 24 hours anyway. So they have got these awful long shifts, but actually they're making it work for the people who are there. So we're going to do this great. I'm excited. I managed to get one of our professors, David Lewis, who's an employment law expert, to do a talk alongside that team to kind of say, right, this is the law, but this is how you make it work in practice, because this team are doing it already. So yeah, well, that's kind of the stuff that we're super proud of. I also wanted to mention our home working policy and our parental leave policy. So yeah, or just honestly, that's a kind of a big one to thank working families for, because I think they've elevated the level we were at and made sure that they work properly. So thank you.
Oh, wow, that's great to hear. Thanks very much indeed for that shout out, Christiana. And yeah, we know Di is brilliant. Orianna, I'm going to come to you next, and then I'll finally go to Denise. So Orianna, can you tell us, please, about the policies and support available to families of all kinds in your organisation? How do you make sure they are inclusive?
I'll only be allocated 3 minutes, so to list all the policy will probably take 3 hours. So I'll stick to the 3 minutes if that's okay. I give a brief highlight. As joke aside, we have a variety of policy out there, and there are so many that I'm very proud of. I will just name a few. One is our bereavement policy. We now recognize bereavement of any stage of gestation and pregnancy, which I think is absolutely key, because that has always been a relatively controversial topic, to now be able to recognize the amount of grief associated with any miscarriage, and to take the amount to process the time. Again, going back to the well-being of our employees and the mental health of our people is important. The other one, again, just to name a few that I'm very, very proud of, is our fertility treatment policy. We are part of one of the few in the industry which actually provide funding towards fertility treatment in collaboration with our health provider. Again, as always, as I listen to my membership in the network, there is always much more that we can do, but I think it's important to start somewhere, to start with the right step in the right direction. And that fertility policy is certainly one which is available for anyone of any gender who is our employee can get funding. And then another one which we've just been looking at, and we recently have changed, we changed the semantic of the word. It's no maternity anymore, is a parental leave. And the parental leave policy is obviously open to everyone. We collaborate very closely with the LGBTQ+ community, and we ensure that we are aware of all the nuances that have been created by the world evolving, in terms of ensuring that we take care of any type of requirements if it's possible. I just came out this morning for another conversation around what we can do and how can we work better together on lobbying, discussing feedback to HR, and working through element on adoption. Time needed for adoption is different, because you need time, a lot of time up front before the baby finally arrives. So how we can recognize that time, can that time be officially keyed into the system, so it's not holiday, is not an awkward conversation with the line manager, is protecting everyone. And again, what I really enjoy as part of my co-chair work is having the opportunity to collaborate very closely to HR, very close to our UK benefit leads, and to find out what we can do, listening to the membership, and putting to the front some of those very important topics. One of the other one that we are exploring, but we're nowhere there yet, and again, we will never be there, is always evolving, but we start looking at surrogacy, because obviously is another, especially in UK, is different type of legislation. And going back to the fact that Citi is a global employer, there are various different elements of legislation and jurisdiction that we need to be careful and mindful of. And again, but this is what I find it fascinating, is that is a learning process. As Christiana was saying, you know, it's good to compare and contrast. It's good to know what's happening elsewhere, and it's good to learn from each other and to see what we can do internally. I still go back to that number that Denise, you mentioned earlier, is so powerful. That 91% is so powerful as a stat. It gives, like, you know, if you feel you've been heard, you are more willing to put the extra time into and to work to your best where you're at. Because ultimately we are called Family Matters. As a network, is important for us that we recognize that there are events during the familial responsibility of each one of us being trying to have a family, us being, you know, a family members ourselves, or us being parents, and all of that have different nuances that needs to be taken into account. And as I said, I'm very proud to say that it's not the finished product. I don't think there will be ever a finished product. It's evolving, and it's good to be part of that conversation.
Thank you so much, Orianna. I think that's really powerful as well, to mention that actually everything keeps on evolving, and that none of us are resting on our laurels and going, oh, well, we've done it all, it's not a problem. Actually, we're people, and all kinds of things change in our lives every day. Finally, on this question, Denise, can you tell us, please, about the policies and support available to families of all kinds in your organisation, and how do you make sure they are inclusive?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So when you think about our organisation as a whole, we have about 7,500 people in the UK, and that is really dispersed over kind of about 300 locations. So it's really interesting, the insight we get from such different geographically dispersed groups. You know, what some people might live in a certain location, they don't necessarily, don't necessarily need in Edinburgh, but actually Aberdeen would like this, and Slough would like that. So we actually have a huge amount of insight. I think we're not short of insight. So we have a few things, you know, the policies that Christiana and Orianna have both said. But I guess the things that we are really proud of is our Be Heard group. And so these are employee representatives across the entire organisation that basically take feedback, suggestions and everything, and they come and have time with the senior leadership team every quarter to feedback. You know, so I think we're really pleased with that element of understanding and really listening, and making great strides and able to kind of, you know, you said we heard, this is what we're doing about it, so that's been good. But I think, you know, as Orianna said, it's never done, right? So every single day there's a new understanding or there's a new evolution. So we really come at it from, you know, the basis of our culture, organizational culture, in terms of our heart principles, which are honesty, excellence, accountability, respect, and teamwork. So that's integral in everything. And then we think about, okay, what do our frontline early years practitioner colleagues need? How is that different from what someone in finance might need in the back office? How is that different from what someone in IT might need? So really understanding the nuances, and I think it is nuanced. It's not a one size fits all, but very focused on it from a well-being perspective. So around, you know, fertility policies, all the same things that Christiana and Orianna have said, but really thinking about, you know, emotional well-being, financial well-being, physical well-being. So with that, it kind of knits into those three things. But I would say it's very active. I think we are fortunate that, you know, we encourage people to be vocal and be heard. And then I guess it's validated somewhat in the fact that, you know, we do the Great Place to Work survey every year, and, you know, we've been on there now for 18 consecutive years. So you know, and I think we're proud of that, because it's you know, we can all talk our own talk, but to have it externally validated, I think is really important. So I guess for us, it's really understanding, meeting people where they are, in the roles that they are, because you know, if the traders in Citi probably need something very, very different than you know, people in procurement do. So the same with Christiana, you were saying about the library. You know, long work shifts there. We have the same with that with early years practitioners. So I think really coming out with an open mindset and actually how we can help all the different stakeholder groups, because actually we are the sum of our parts, and or more than the sum of our parts. So it's just having that flexible approach to how we support people in this way.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Denise. That's great. We're coming to the last question now. So I hope your personal questions from the audience are coming in. And Christiana, I'm going to come to you. How has your staff network been able to help your workplace create an inclusive culture that supports diversity and family-friendly working? As a network chair, can you share any tips on how you've developed a successful partnership with your EDI team?
I think it's so important to have those strong links with, so for example, our HR team, they're called the Inclusion and Wellbeing team. So I've been working with them actually with the 6 networks to make sure that we financially and event plan for the year forward for all of our 6 networks. I feel like that relationship needs to be like, quite focused. So by doing those, we've submitted kind of plans so that our team know what's coming and what type of events we're trying to focus on, and we always try to hit like awareness days and make sure we're kind of checking in with our people. We're massively supported by the kind of experts and suppliers that we've set up that kind of give this information to our staff. We were trying to make sure that these sessions are kind of lunchtime friendly and always online as well, so that people can kind of check in, and they're video recorded. So we try and have like a whole hub of information for people to kind of use. And another big focus that we've had from our inclusion and wellbeing team is that they'd like us to do collaborative events, so that like we cross over these networks. They're not just going to stand alone, like, don't touch me. We make sure that we kind of connect. So it's been great. So we're going to, so with our Parents Carers network, I've approached our LGBTQ network, and we're going to be doing an event on surrogacy, and particularly as well with legal, to make like kind of that area of America that's kind of quite secure, and what the law is doing. It's very progressive, so it's very interesting. And then also blended families. So kind of what is the nature of our families now? They don't, I think, Denise was saying, like it just doesn't look the way it used to look before, and we need to acknowledge that and make sure that everyone's being included in that way too. Like, does this reflect your family? You know, and what do you do when there are problems within that, when you've got blended families coming together and children from, so it's really an interesting area. So we're excited in that type of work. And then then I'm really passionate about working with our gender network at the minute. This year, International Men's Day is actually themed around male suicide. So it's just really, important topics that we just can't miss. So we're making sure that we kind of address that and kind of have a week long. We've got kind of 1K, one call walks and all sorts of things going on in that area, because Middlesex is really passionate about postvention and making sure that the advice around suicide is there. And we're also with the gender network, going to do a session on transitions and sexuality. And with our disability network, we've got some sessions on oppositional defiance disorder, because ADHD, and we're really focusing on making sure that there's not this deficiency in sort of ADHD. We're making it superpower. We're saying, let's not go that way. And what we really love is we've got a neurodiversity festival every year now with our disability network. So that's brilliant. We had this amazing comedian come in, and it was just so good, kind of even insights from her as an autistic person, and we were really learning and really, so I think it's really inclusive, which is just brilliant. And then one thing that I'm seeing,
I'm so sorry, Christiana, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
And then we're going to focus on a buddying system, a dad's hub, because we feel like that's really important. And we just love the lunch and learns.
I love your enthusiasm. It's absolutely wonderful. Orianna, over to you for exactly the same question. How's your staff network been able to help your workplace create an inclusive culture that supports diversity and family-friendly working? Can you share any tips on how you've developed a successful partnership with your EDI team?
I think our probably best tip will be to listen and listen carefully, and also to be able to pinpoint. What I mean with that is that, you know, going back to the size of the organization, being able to tell the employees what they can use, what is available for them, and what is available is not just, I need a babysitter for my 2-year-old child, because, you know, when they think about the family network, I think sometimes we still have a little bit of work to do in terms of the perception. So we keep on framing back to every aspect of the familiar responsibility. And if we hear of a need, we can try to translate that need and to change it. I mean, I'll point to Denise, she's on top of my screen to the other side. We work very closely with Bright Horizon. We're able to give as a benefit tutoring hours, for example. Before were babysitting hours, now the same hours can be utilized for tutoring, you know. So again, you're thinking now of a different age of your child responsibilities that you have. We can also use the same hours for caring for your own mom and dad, for your own parents, for your own family. Again, another stage in the family responsibility. So we have been listening to our membership, and we will be able to work with our HR department, our D&I. As I said, we are one of the pillars that are part of the full D&I framework. Also to remember that the network are all on a volunteering basis. So I do this on the side of my day-to-day job, but it's part to be able to create that culture at Citi, that environment whereby the D&I proposition is not, as I said earlier, as I thought, is embedded in what we're trying to do. And again, you know, caring for your family whilst you're work away, so where you have responsibility that your job is demanding. So all of that thing is a continuous loop of listening and try to ensure that those topics get included and get discussed into the right forum, and then ultimately will land into policy or standards or even day in life. One other element for us is important is to create contrast and compare about different experiences. Ultimately, it boils down also to relationship that you have with your line manager. So having role line managers that actually demonstrate that some of those policies do happen, are applicable, get utilized, becoming a role model for something that people wanted is fantastic because it anchors the thought and you have a clear example. And this is important because, again, recreate that loop of how to improve, but also if it's there, let's use it. So as I said, for us, the two most important things are to keep listening and continuously, but also to amplify and broadcast what's available, what's being used, what type of experiences that all of our peers have used. And therefore you see in practice the original thoughts that were there. We had a lot of fathers taking parental leave now, you know, the 60%, which is fantastic. What we want is more of those examples. When we have panels, we always invite, such as today, we invite our employees, our fellow colleagues to share their experience, because that makes it tangible. Oh yes, I'm sending my kids to the school club via Bright Horizon and I can do it. Oh, and then all of a sudden something that is kind of a thought or a theory in a policy become a fact.
Yeah.
And that's what is able to continue that conversation.
Orianna, thank you. And I love those examples of those real models, people talking about what they're actually doing. Denise, we're getting very close to question time. So I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to ask you to be as concise as possible.
No problem. So I'd already mentioned about our very active employee forum, Be Heard. And we've got an equally active group, which is DEIB. So for us, it's not just diversity, equity and inclusion, it's that real sense of belonging. And we feel, you know, we're very, very focused on the B of it. And that's one of our obviously big CSR drives alongside our Future Earth, which looks at the environmental impact. You know, it's a really it's a great group. They provide us with loads of advice and loads of input. So on the 10th of this month, we've got stories being read across our entire nursery footprint and office footprint, and for the event on that day. But also, I think it's, again, just people seeing, as you would say, real models across all different levels and functional areas of the organisation. The more that people see that, the more that they feel that they belong. And then also really helping people understand around inclusive language, because I think sometimes people are frightened of saying the wrong thing. So we're also focused on actually how to get people comfortable with the fact that the environment changes so much, and, you know, come at it from a place of, you know, curiosity and interest rather than being scared of saying the wrong thing. And as you know, we put on a number of events every year for our employer partners in this way. And then my esteemed colleague Jennifer Liston-Smith brings basically our clients' network chairs together twice a year so that they can also learn from each other. So it's all the time, it's just expanding, you know, those interactions across the whole. And, you know, there's loads and loads of different types of events. There's, you know, menopause, there's neurodiversity facilities. So a real number of ways that we look to support both our own employees and our client partners.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Denise. I love that phrase, belonging, or that word, belonging.
It's really important to us. It's absolutely integral to our DEIB approach.
Brilliant. So I'm delighted to say we have had quite a lot of questions in. So I'm going to put two of these together, which was, do any of the panelists have guidance or resources that businesses could implement to encourage the workforce to move beyond gendered caring roles? Then, in fact, I'm just going to put that one. So do you have any guidance or resources that businesses could implement to encourage the workforce to move beyond gendered caring roles? Christiana, let me go to you first.
I was thinking Denise would be perfect for this one because she's really passionate about this area. I'm really sorry. Is there any chance I can throw it back over to you? If not,
Absolutely.
I'll take it back.
Denise.
Yes. So again, I think it's down to real modelling. But whoever the question has come from, if they want to contact me directly, I can talk them through some of the things that we do. But as you know, we have a very strong coaching element to our business. So some of it comes from people having the airtime to think about these things and bringing to life that that it's not a gender stereotype. And one of the really interesting ways that we see this, funny enough, and Orianna mentioned it earlier on, is the fact that when employers are supporting direct care responsibilities, that's when they see a real shift to almost moving away from that, oh, it's mums that always get a call from school. It's really interesting when caring responsibilities are at the forefront of that conversation with employees. You'll have a very different understanding. So as I said, please contact me and we can chat about this offline further.
Super. Thank you, Denise. Orianna, do you have anything to add to that?
For us, it goes back again to the example, right? So we really need to be able to share example. The more we share, the more the conversation, dialogue becomes more and more simple and normal. Please use the word normal in inverted commas. Is nothing that it becomes a taboo anymore. You can talk about openly, and then it's very easy. This morning, as I mentioned earlier, we were in this conversation with, there is a dedicated specific group in the area that I work at Citi, which is like coming out parents. So, you know, again, providing voices and bringing those discussions to surface and say, like, you know, sharing the journey, sharing the emotion, sharing what happened, and how all of that we can work in partnership to ensure that the next iteration of the policy or the standards get included into all of those various includes all various different elements. I think is quite important. We are also Denise mentioned earlier, we're also very careful in terms of the language. You know, the language does need recognition, needs changing, and then it's important that people do understand the language, but also do not are not afraid to make mistakes, because I think everyone starts from a genuine point of view, and then just want to ensure that the narrative is correct. But we work very close with every aspect, if you will, as I said, of the familial responsibility. We're supporting now National Coming Out Day, which is happening I think in a couple of weeks. I don't want to get my dates wrong, and we're going to broadcast and share those stories that other families have been able to and willing to share. So is always a learning curve, and you know, as always, comes with a lot of learning and a few mistakes along the way. But it's important that we keep that conversation and showcase the experiences.
Yeah.
Super, thank you. And this is just for Orianna and Christiana. What top tips would you give someone who is considering becoming a network chair, given for most people this is going to be an activity on the side of their desks?
Want to go first, Christiana?
Sure. Yeah, it's got to be the right fit person, I'd say. Yeah, I don't know, I've probably already said, but if you do really care about your people and you really try and invest, I always try and send an email, and I feel like I am always selling to the parents and carers. I'm always like, okay, or I'll send an email saying like, oh, I heard you might be interested about joining, and I give an example. I say, I'm Christiana and I have an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old, and this is what I'm really interested in. Maybe I'm really interested in neuroscience and what goes on with co-regulation and your limbic, and like it just I don't know, probably that's a big example because we've been interested in that recently, but probably something a bit more down to earth. But I try to put something in like, this is who we are, like we'd love you to join us, we're a tiny network of 65, come join us. But I think you've just kind of got to be that kind of person that wants people to join and is interested in what those people actually need, and for me, not exactly what the university needs, but what our people need. So kind of understanding, what are people going through at the minute? What would be most useful to their lives? Because then we actually are kind of serving our people instead of just kind of doing what you're meant to be doing. So I just feel like it needs to be, a deeper understanding of what would be most helpful actually.
Super. Orianna, what about you? What are the tips to become a network chair?
Divide and conquer. That will definitely be my tip. And we are 3 co-chairs just in London, and each one of us have a very busy working day, so this is done on the side of our desk. But that sounds a little bit diminishing because it's on the side, but it is a passion. Like Christiana said, it's a passion. So you have to be driven by genuine passion, because you will have time to dedicate to fulfill your passion and to ensure that the narrative goes on. So that's why absolutely divide and conquer. Find a very effective a steering committee or other people that want to really be member. But again, and also trying to find out the people that want to be member because they've got a genuine passion. They want to do something for change or something that they want to badge. And there are, and again, there are quite few, people that might have a different agenda. So it's important that, once the people have committed to it, they commit also, and I don't think there is anything better than earnest passion. So if you are committed and a passion and you have a topic that of interest, we will always listen and we will say, run with it. Will you sometimes empowering people to be able to feel that that passion and trying to find a solution? I think that's the reward in itself, and that will reward the extra hours and the work that you're putting into charity. I find it terribly fulfilling. I love it. I love being able to drive change. Change is my also work trade as well. So be able to drive change, be able to contribute to the culture and the narrative. For me, those are my kicks. But divide and conquer.
So divide and conquer, bring the passion, and get great quality executive support.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. So I'm now going to put these 2 questions together. So someone said that it was really interesting that the most common poll answer was that lack of understanding and training around the business case for being more family friendly and inclusive was a problem. So the questioner says, how can employers combat this challenge? And I thought I'd bring it together with how you navigate internal resistance when decision makers or budget holders acknowledge the importance of prioritize budget and resources elsewhere. I'm going to come to you, Denise, first, because I know that this is something Bright Horizons does. But also with Christiana and Orianna from a slightly different perspective, one from a slightly smaller organization, and obviously Citi is enormous. So how do you get that business case and how do you overcome resistance?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is I think in principle, everybody knows that supporting this is the right thing to do, right? It's you know, our people reflect our customers, our communities. So I think if we come from that stance, but of course there's always competing priorities in organizations. So my best advice would be it's data, particularly with those more senior folks or the budget holders, because you know they have a number, you know, certainly with all the different policies and things that people are trying to address. So I would always advocate demonstrating the return on investment, demonstrating the impact on retention, on employee engagement. All of that stuff leads to productivity. It leads to a reduction in sick time off. So there are so many data points that actually are really compelling for senior leaders to address it. It's, you know, I'm sure Christiana and Orianna will know the balance between we're doing it for the right thing, but also there's an organizational benefit for doing it. And actually it makes our people feel great too, because we all want to work with someone who, you know, or work for an organization that's passionate in this space and really wants to make a difference in the communities where we live and work. So data, return on investment.
Super. Thanks so much, Denise. Christiana, how about you?
I want to talk about resistance just actually within our culture of our employees. We sorry, so to specify in that kind of area, and we had a real problem at the beginning with attracting carers to join our network, and I'd say we still really have a problem in this area. We sometimes speak to members of staff who don't feel supported by their manager, and it's a really inconsistent practice because you've got amazing managers who are super supportive, and as soon as they understand, they kind of make those reasonable adjustments. And that's why we're huge advocates of saying kind of, you know, here's a carers policy, and like we want to show you that we really do care. But I think there's a real fear around that area where people don't want to be seen to be saying they're a carer or they've got kind of a lot of childcare needs, because they're worried. And so that a huge job that we need to do here in our network, and I don't know if it's elsewhere, it would be interesting to know, is whether everybody else struggles, but to try and combat that, we're trying to do kind of like carers exhibitions and actually in academia as well. But yeah, like I feel like I have a lot, we still have a lot to learn in this area. It's not something that we're expert in, but it's something we're really trying with. But yeah, also kind of going back to, yeah, but budgetary issues are always issues, but yeah, those are our kind of big issues that we've got, kind of with making sure that we're making our carers feel supported and heard and join.
Super, thank you. Yeah, it's very interesting with carers, isn't it, that sometimes they don't recognize themselves as carers. They are simply daughters, sons, brothers, uncles, fathers, mothers. You know, their roles are defined within the family. Orianna, how about you? That the issues around business case and overcoming resistance, particularly around budget or when resources are put elsewhere?
Budget is a problem everywhere, so it's not because of your size guarantees and bigger budget. I think what we have learned to do, and we keep on learning, is trying to be more effective with what we do, and trying to do it with less expenditure. So harnessing, as I said, in the most powerful message that you can do if people within your organization are apply the policy that are available to them. And that, if you think about it, is cost zero. So you just need to find those examples, you need to showcase those examples. And those are inevitably, those are data that you can show, look, these people have done it. And that also become a contrast to compare, because Christiana was making a very good point there. There is different styles and different level of understanding from a management perspective. We've created some sort of like moment that matters fact sheets, you know, but ultimately what we saying to our members and to everyone to come to our event it is happening and is happening elsewhere. So it's not just your case. So if you find somebody else's that's happened within the organization, we can use that to anchor, and then you can create your business case for a specific situation. From budget constraint is a little bit difficult, but I think we have been coming out of a journey which is a little bit more cost effective. So we work with our current providers and partners. We work with leading expertise in the industry. We coming back in, and we're not spending the money that we used to spend. We used to be able to spend for all the various reasons. And also we find it, to be frankly honest, in a situation where the cost of living and everything else is still at the forefront of everyone, coming out and putting a lavish event, is kind of a struggle with the message that we want to do, because we want to reach more with less, not few with some. And, always be thinking about how to be more effective and efficient with what you can do. Ultimately, one of our biggest constraints actually are legislations and jurisdiction, because being, as we mentioned briefly earlier, being a global organization, things in UK are different from Europe, are different from US, so it's very difficult to create that consistency for different reasons. And again, so the legal aspect is quite important. And again, HR, there is a huge goodwill, but ultimately they need to come up with one fits all approach, and we are not all of us with one.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to account for all the various cases. So those are the constraints, I would say, that we face on a daily basis.
Super. Thank you so much. This has been an absolutely fascinating discussion. I love the fact that we've been talking about things that are evolving, that we've been talking about passion, that we've been talking about how families are created in all kinds of different ways. I love the word belonging that was used. This has been absolutely brilliant in terms of these three people who are just so passionate about the work that they do. Thank you so much. We'll be sending the webinar recording to you all, and we'll encourage you, please, to share it with your colleagues. For the HR and D&I professionals in our audience, we offer an employer membership scheme, as many of you know, as well as training and consultancy to support your journey towards a more flexible, family-friendly culture. Please look out for our follow-up email for more information. And we're also encouraging all employers to use our Happy to Talk Flexible Working logo and strapline, which was developed in partnership with the government's Flexible Working Task Force, and signals to all prospective employees that you're open to working flexibly. Please look out for our follow-up email for more information and go to our website. Thank you. And a final thank you to Denise, Orianna and Christiana. Brilliant. Just such wonderful support. Thank you so much.